Hey guys, how's it going? This is Chad Canyer. This is the Wilderness Podcast, episode 1 with my new co-host. I'm very excited about it, Bryce Petty. Let's go. And we're just going to jump into it. A little bit of background on the podcast. We're going to get into our backgrounds, personal, professional, otherwise. A little bit of background on the podcast. I've always wanted to do one, and started it probably 8 weeks ago. Honestly, just started jamming on my phone. Terrible audio quality. We've now upgraded. And then one of my first guests was Mr. Bryce Petty, who sits before you now.
Dang right. It was
and
good.
It was good. I thought we just had a good time. We went to his house, had beers, started rolling video with our guy Trevor. And then afterwards, he's like, we need to do this together. And I was only like 3 episodes in, so I was open to ideas. So yeah, the rest is kind of history on that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm in your boat, man. I've always wanted to do one. And, it had been something, kind of two things. One, that I felt engaging, kind of passionate about, and two, that you got to like the people that you're with, right? And so
we're still working on that part.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We'll get there.
It's okay. Danny, your wife, has since put a nice little deposit in my bank account to be your friend.
That's great. That's why things are tight.
I need a goat at some point.
I need a return.
A cow.
I need a return.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, goat.
So no, it's been good, man. So I'm excited to get this thing going and see where it goes. That'll be a good time.
Awesome. I think we really connected early on. We're going to talk about how we met, but I think we connected on the premise of the podcast. It's called The Wilderness because, I think we've all listeners, in all domains of life can relate to this to some extent. There's transition seasons. There's seasons of change. There's seasons of difficulty. And I'm a big believer, and Bryce is a big believer, that is where we grow, right? And that's where we can find kind of an unlocking of where we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing and the relationships we're supposed to have. When we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, we unlock a lot of really cool things. And so the wilderness is kind of it's a metaphor. Obviously, I mean, we're not in a jungle currently, but it's a metaphor for those difficult seasons of life and what they teach us and the beauty that lies within those struggles. Right.
I love it. Yeah. And then, even my kind of twist on the wilderness, because I love how it's portrayed, but you never really think of the wilderness as a certain path. You kind of create that path, and you just enjoy the ambiance of where you're at. And so it's kind of that's what we want to be as kind of facilitating this podcast, is just wherever this finds you in life. Hopefully either through one of the things that we say, a guest, whatever, it just kind of helps you wander through the wilderness one step at a time. Hopefully in the right direction.
It's so important. No, definitely revise as needed. I think it's important also to just kind of see it as it's okay to not know like where the true destination is, right?
Preach. Retweet.
There's going to be a lot of that. So I'm sorry about that. Just to set that out. But yeah, not knowing what's going on is good. It means you're open to new things. I wouldn't have kind of gone on this journey if I wasn't willing to get a little uncomfortable. There's all those voices in your head that are like, you don't know how to podcast. Like, what makes you qualified to know how to do that? There's equipment, there's cost, there's time, and then you just got to kind of take a step. And I believe that God starts hooking things up if it's the right path for you. And we don't know those things, but Bryce and I share this. We believe in an omnipotent being that kind of sits above and has a game plan for our lives. So if the activity or the quest is on track with his ultimate plan for our lives, then he's going to have it bear fruit. And then we know, oh, this is cool. I think I'm starting to walk in my purpose, which is a very exciting thing.
Right. And even to go along with that too, like we had just talked about before, getting on or jumping on here, was the fear aspect, right? There's always a fear of one, the unknown, but two, you got the enemy in your head going, yeah, you're not adequate, right? Like no one's going to listen to you. You don't have things important to say. And whether or not that be true, it's still the act of putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, which is both something that we want to do. And then again, alongside with our guests and people that we bring in, I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked about it. And so this is kind of, we didn't format any of that. One thing that you're going to kind of feel is we don't know how to be inauthentic. If we ever offend anybody on here, like, I'm sorry. We're not trying to offend you guys. and we are faith guys, but we're not going to pound that. We're really going to speak from our own experience, and that's all I can speak to.
Right. And your address is what for the mailbox?
My address is 44. Am I being clear enough?
Right.
Let me lean in here. So I want to cover the format of the show a little bit, and
Perfect.
of course, it will be iterated, right, for quality, value, all that. But and so, Bryce, I need your help on here because it's written on the whiteboard behind my body.
Yeah, so we got an intro.
Yeah, we're going to do an intro, which
We're
we
gonna
just
intro
laid
to
out.
whatever the day brings. And I think we're going to kind of incorporate some kind of game.
We want to loosen it up right off the bat. We know you're on your
Icebreaker.
commute. It might be 6 a.m., might be 2 a.m. We're gonna loosen your load a little bit. That sounded really weird. we're gonna
And cut.
and we don't edit. That's
Yeah,
another. We're also not gonna edit because we want you to feel just as awkward as I do right now.
It brings the authenticity.
We're big on participation.
That's right. And then we're going to have a core topic, which obviously is a little bit, I guess, compounded off the intro there. But then we're going to have a really cool thing where it's to check this out, what Chad brought, which we're just going to kind of give you a little bit of an intro into something that we've either been brought into, eaten,
experienced, right?
Yeah.
Something we're digging, something we like, I feel like it could be a song that we're digging right now. I'm gonna probably reference a lot of Disney movies because I have children. I watch a lot of Disney movies.
Just listening to Selena Gomez on the way here.
I have no regrets about loving Moana. I think she's a really intrepid character, and no regrets.
That's true.
We're gonna, so anyway that kind of plays out. We'll have some fun with that. What else we got?
I think the other one was give, and I'm gonna let you. It's
Yeah,
not
that's
give
just
up,
it's.
as it was almost
So
written
before
on the
before the show, we were like, all right, and then we also do this give. Like at the end of our episode, we want to provide you with something like a boost, or mostly it's going to be encouragement, right? Or some strict discipline. Just a loving corrections. Like what?
We all need criticism.
But I was writing while I was talking, and I just wrote "give up," and the guys were like, "That's the opposite of what we're trying to do with that." We're gonna end this really motivating show on just saying, "You need to quit right now, whatever you're doing."
Oh, retirement's always good.
The forest has officially burned at that
For
point.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But before we go on, I feel like there is an important piece to this this duo. It's actually a trio. For those of you guys who don't know, as you have two voices typically talking, you got a video looking at our ugly mugs. But we also have a fantastic third partner in the wilderness with us.
Just a beast.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's worthy talking to. I don't think he wants us to talk about him.
Could be like a mystical creature.
It's a
to
publicity
most-
thing.
Yeah. You guys don't out there. Y'all won't know if we're actually telling the truth or not. So we're just gonna keep it.
He's a certified centaur.
Just fresh off the Avengers. But we're gonna keep it.
Was that?
Yeah, for sure. I have no idea what
No,
a
I
centaur
don't
is.
either. Or a Dothraki warrior as part of
Okay.
the Game of Thrones, which I'm super
Which, by the
into
way,
right
can
now.
we?
We're gonna have to spend some time. on
Okay,
that.
please, because there is some stuff happening
Now we
right
are.
now.
We
okay.
are. Arya is a sensation.
Oh man.
Arya is a sensation.
Unbelievable.
That scene was epic.
I can already see. I'm gonna say over under 25 for the amount of Arya.
Arya, yeah. It's about to go up, right?
Celebrations. There's gonna be you drop the football into one hand. Stab.
Oh,
I've
you're
already seen
calling
3.
it like a Tebow kinda
I
thing.
mean, it's kind of sort of a Tebow
A
thing.
little
Not
different.
really.
It's a touch different on that.
It is a touch different, but there was already like 2 lacrosse, celebrations.
That's
with
a
it. I'm
cool
telling you,
one,
it's gonna
man.
be.
That's
It's
a
gonna
cool
continue on. She's a stud.
I
She's
wouldn't
a
want
stud.
to play the Ice King or whatever in that scene.
No, not that one. Not that
No,
one. Plus, he's
no.
super ugly, man.
They
He's
could have
probably
done
got
better
great
with that.
credit,
They
but
could have
yeah,
done better.
for sure.
Very stoic character. Never broke character. You ought to wonder what his wife's been through for the past 2 years.
It's been tough. It's a great personality.
He stays in costume at home as well.
Here's the thing. I'd love to. This is a great segue actually to this game that I want to play, and I want to flip it on you because
Oh
you
my
said that you
God,
wanted me to
dude.
start.
Oh my god.
But
Alright.
I think I would love to start it. So the premise of this game is for 60 seconds. I'm going to time Chad.
It's so long.
It is quite a bit. But what I'd like to do is for you to just tell me your experience with the Ice King for 60 seconds. What was
I just
when y'all
did
met?
20 right there.
Well, then you can go more. 60 seconds, go. You've wasted.
The stoic character that is the Ice King started thinking about Dr. Evil. Anyway, related, close cousin. No, I think the Ice King is a deep character. I think there's more there than we like to talk about. It's terrible.
Oh, you
if
got
you think
30
about
seconds, Captain.
what decisions what decisions in his life did he make to get to that point where he's leading this army? I mean, at some point he had to be respected and revered amongst his fellow soldiers and whatnot. My question is, how does he have such power? Because he's in a different class than like the dead. There's no intellect with the dead, but he's there, right? He's locked and loaded. He raises his hands and they all obey him. What force gave him that authority? Did he earn it? Because if he earned it, kudos to the Ice King, bro. I think he's earned his right to really torture a lot of people.
Good job. That was our
God,
first
that was
game
terrible.
for 60
I
seconds.
cannot wait for next week.
It.
I'm going to ice you on that.
Oh,
Pun
man,
intended. Pun intended on that.
I can't wait.
All right, let's get on to something more. Let's talk about how we met and our stories and stuff like
definitely.
that. I want you to go first.
Okay.
Story
first. Yeah. So I recently transitioned off the field, played in the NFL for 4 years, 3 years with the Jets, a year with Miami, and then kind of dipped back into, I guess, my childhood in a sense of Midlothian, Dallas. But, for me, it was what's next. There's a business kind of aspect to, what's life after football. And so there was this fresh new thing called LinkedIn that you actually slid into my DMs.
Great tool.
Fantastic tool for interview business associates out there. But and so we actually, just kind of struck up a conversation. And then I think it turned into a phone call that ended up being probably, 45 minutes, hour?
He swiped right first.
Swiped right, several
times. For the
times.
record.
Right.
And I hold that over my wife's head because we met on Match, and there was no swiping. And there's no swiping on LinkedIn either, but you also swiped right on me first, just for the record.
I had to click open the message, I guess. So,
dude, it's not how it played out.
It's just not how it played out. It's for sure how it played out. I mean, I could have definitely just...
We'll get a body on that.
Thrown that to the wind. But, so
I love how open-minded you are, though. You have a heart for just creating and being open, and I love that. You have a trust that's authentic. You have good discernment. You can tell when someone's trying to screw you. We've talked about some of those other things you're talking about, but there's also this openness and this humility. I think it takes humility to be open to, okay, these guys know business. I'm new to this thing. I got to learn as much as I can. I think every athlete needs to have that posture when they enter business, but with certain safeguards in place as well, right? Because there's a lot of bad actors out there too.
Right. Yeah. The discernment piece is, I think it's a gift, one, but I think it's also something that you can work on and become better with. But, I was kind of under the assumption too that there's never a bad connection. It's you figuring out, which way, right or left, that you need to put those people in that category. But, as you start to meet people, especially in a transitional phase, there's going to be things that you don't know. And it's always good to know what you don't know. And so, apart from just our immediate, personality connection, I think you brought a lot of wisdom and where you were at, what you were doing. Thanks, and then man. Also the, just what you were doing, the purpose-driven lifestyle that you had, wanted to adopt and have adopted since then. So...
Well, isn't it kind of funny how, a lot of people meet and find their soulmate. We're not soulmates. Not
clear
yet.
This up.
A few more episodes on that.
Buy me dinner first.
So I think it's interesting, though, how many stories I hear that people met and they're married now and they were in transition when they met, or they were on vacation. So I studied abroad in Australia during college. I went to Bond University. I didn't study. I drank abroad and surfed abroad. I tried to surf abroad. And a lot of people just go there to study abroad and they stay and they marry someone within 2 years and they're like, hey, family, I now live in Sydney, Australia. That happened. I've heard 7 or 8 stories of that when I was over there.
What do you think that is?
My wife met. Well, I'm about to talk about it. Okay. Shut up. So that was my thesis, and now I'm going to my supporting points. So my wife, Exhibit A, my wife, right? I'm a rebound. My wife had just lost her mom when we met. Best rebound ever. She's way out of my league. Got super lucky, right? And I make the joke, but she reached out to me on Match.com. But it's funny because she tells me the story of that. Danny is not the kind of person who reaches out to guys. She's very reserved. At least that's what she tells me, right? No, but seriously, her friend, they were hanging out, and her friend's you got to get back out there. You're not making good decisions right now, because she was reeling after the loss of her mom. Her mom was her best friend. She died of cancer for 6 years. Just terrible, right? So she was open to things. So her her friend said, you got to get on Match.com. Like, he's cute. # yep. And she said, okay, fine. And she just said, hey there. That's all, like, total minimalist, super hot, right? Like, her profile has like 17 characters in it. Mine had 1,700. What?
Was it a period or
I don't even know if she did it wasn't proper English.
No punctuation.
Even hotter, even hotter. Then I had to validate that she was educated to some degree, right?
Okay. Was it HEY or HAY?
Was it hi there or hey there? No, she's a hey. She's more into hey. Okay. Anyway, took her out and we struck up a connection, and I don't even know. Like, people are like, how do you know that she was the one? I don't know if I necessarily knew she was the one the first time we hung out, but we talked like crazy for 2.5 hours, and it just didn't feel like 2.5 hours. And then we left, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. Long story short, I'm not going to tell my love story, but long story short, I think when we go through difficulty, we're doing a lot of introspection. We're open to new things, because there's kind of this voice that's like, well, I'm doing A, and it's not necessarily like it's leading to a lot of unhappiness. And then we kind of pivot to a B. And then some of the first affirmations we feel along that new path, we get excited about it because it's fresh and new. And if there's life, we lean into it a little bit more than if those things happen to us on the A path. Because we've been doing the A path for a long time. It's familiar. But this new thing is fresh and all this kind of thing. And I never would have got Danny ever if I just met her when her mom was alive. I just know that. Like, I just know it because I know her so well now, you know? But I think transition seasons are where you really figure out who you are and who you need to be around. And those relationships have a tendency to persist a lot longer, I think. Yeah.
It was actually kind of cool. I was reading a book a couple months ago, and it was kind of talking about, you know, you have two different types of I guess factors that play into decisions, right? You have your emotional side, and then you have this animalistic side. Animalistic being more of an instinctual,
like fight or flight type stuff.
Exactly. And so it's kind of funny because he was telling about, you know, in transitional phases, you tend to go more on emotion than instinct because your instinct is kind of, you know, really
shaken up or whatever.
Like you can't really rely on it. But it's funny how your mind just kind of transitions to an emotional state at that point. So it's kind of a cool.
Interesting. Maybe that even like trigger, maybe that's our bodies naturally trigger. And even I could make the argument for the divines because he programmed us that way.
Right.
His ability to put us in a natural state of discomfort so that it creates this ripple that we need to like change our life, you know, or to like go and help someone or reach out, right? We're shaken up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, that's powerful, dude. I could talk about that kind of stuff all day because it's just so interesting. If you talk to anybody, they can like share a unique perspective, you know, on that stuff.
And that's actually one of the things that I've found pretty interesting hanging out with you too. Is me and you are kind of like in the sense of there's much more psychological, if that's how you say that.
That's a word.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
You got to follow it up with another word though.
Okay. There's a more in depth of okay, the answer is A, but why is it A? I tend to kind of think like that sometimes too, where it's like, okay, what made you choose A? That's why most of the time in our arguments, you know, with me and my wife, I'm right, is because there's a
deeper logic.
There's a deeper logic to it. You know, I know why I'm right. You know,
Yeah. Wow.
It's an interesting story. I don't know.
Wow. I think that's so interesting because you can go in so many directions there. So Bryce reached out. The story there is a little foggy. We're going to have to validate some details. Who cares? He's my friend now.
Okay.
We're just, I don't want to have to go back and validate that.
Bad.
It's so bad. But, I mean, my journey, I'm from corporate America. I went to school. So I'm from Seattle, Washington, or outside, like near Microsoft on the east side of Seattle. Youngest of three. Really wanted to get out of Seattle. There's a lot of new money there. Like, it's like Microsoft money, first generation wealth. And I had like amazing friends growing up. I had an amazing upbringing, great family. And but I just really wanted to do my own thing. Like, I was the youngest, and I felt, whether it was real or not, I felt overshadowed by my older sisters because they were super achievers. Like, my oldest sister went to Yale and broke every softball record they have. Like, she's a freak. And so, but it's funny though, because that opened us up to the whole East Coast idea for school. And we started looking at, I wanted to play college football. And so we looked at schools, and my dad was like, listen, you're not going to play pro ball. You're 5'10". Like, get with it, right? It's okay. But we can use your football experience to get you into a really good school and, like, increase your experience, right? And so That's what we did. So Carnegie Mellon was like, it's kind of what we landed on. Pittsburgh it was great. It was blue collar. So like, even though there's money there and there's opportunity in a good school, it's blue collar. So like, people are down to earth. And I went to Carnegie Mellon, studied business, focused on entrepreneurship the last 2 years. I was just floored by the professors. They were just amazing humans and really kind of encouraged me. And when I graduated, I had like $70,000 worth of like debt. I think it was something around there. And cleaning lady's having a night. She's just slamming doors around. There's some vengeance going on. Anyway, long story short, took a job in corporate, worked at Freddie Mac. It's a mortgage finance company. And then got into consulting. So I was a consultant for 3 years with PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's a big consulting firm. They traveled me all around the nation doing a bunch of cool stuff for big companies. It sounds cooler than it was. We drove big technology projects. That's essentially what we did. Or if they had a big audit coming up, we'd come in and consult them and get them ready for an audit. I did consulting for about 5 years. And I switched firms at one point because we were living in DC at the time. My wife and I were just engaged. We got pregnant. She got pregnant, but I was there. I was present when that happened. I took credit for it. Just put it that way. Joke. We moved to Seattle because my family's from there. We wanted the family support. Moved there, and something about having a kid. Again, transition season, right? I was shaken up. Now, we had been praying, like, I hated my job. I was traveling all the time. I'd get on a flight at 6 a.m. on Monday morning and come back Thursday night. I hated my life. I made good money. The resume was tight, but I hated my life. Like, I was so angry. And so we're praying, like, God, what do you have for us? Like, I was applying for jobs in Ireland. Like, we were really thinking big about it. And then, boom, we got pregnant. And it just shook everything up. We moved to Seattle, and something about having a kid and getting married and like moving to a new city and getting a new job just kind of like puts a mirror up in front of you and you're like, what is my life? I was like 26, 27 at the time. And I was just like, I'm unfulfilled at work. Like, I make good money, and I tried to make all these changes within the sphere of my work situation. Like, maybe if I change the type of work I do for this company. And here I'm working at Microsoft as a consultant doing like pretty cool product development stuff. But I'm like, I just hate, like, I need to like create and I need to talk and I need to encourage people. And it didn't give me any outlets for that. Right. So long story short, we moved to Dallas 2 years ago and I said, honey, I'm either going to get my MBA and pivot into something different, or I'm going to start my own business. And so I literally decided the latter, and I just walked into the Dallas Entrepreneur Center. It's like a co-working facility downtown. And I just started making connections. And 2 years later, here I am. I have a business. I have a podcast. We are not out of it yet, but I'm just so much more fulfilled. Like I know that I will be successful in this new path because I love this new path and I feel like it's me. I'm not trying to like live some standard that like my parents set or the world set or like some blog set that's like, here's how you get happy. You make a ton of money and you have an Instagram following. Like, it's just so empty. And so I'm all about purpose, man. Like I feel like life is just too short. You got to be willing to take chances. So, Bryce and I connected on that. He transitioned out of the NFL and similar, right? Like we both lost something that was part of our identity, right? I lost my corporate salary, my career, my resume, my LinkedIn glamour. And when you lose things, you realize how important they were to you, like how big of a component of your identity they were. And then you realize, man, I'm so glad I'm not built on that anymore. Right. I'm strong because who I am. I'm not strong because of my friggin' resume. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So we talk about that all day,
Right. Well, and you kind of bring up a good point because I think a lot of our listeners are probably going to fall into that same category of this loss of identity and or this facade of identity, really, right? And it's imperative for you as you live life is to find out that identity is not in things, it's not in resumes, it's not in money. There's a certain priority list there that fulfills you, that gets you up in the morning, that puts you back to sleep, and that when you look in the mirror, you feel happy. And fulfilled is kind of a buzzword I think gets thrown around a lot, but you know it when you have it, and you also know when you don't have it, kind of thing, and you search for that. So. Yeah, definitely in that same boat with the football deal. So I'm excited about what I'm doing now, and then we get to do this, which is kind of share our stories and hopefully benefit somebody in that way.
What are you doing now? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So recently kind of transitioned to more of the real estate world. So work for a real estate hedge fund here in Dallas and kind of doing the fundraising deal. So I go out and meet investors.
Perfect personality, right, for that.
Right.
Mr. Quarterback
We
coming
love it,
in.
man.
You got
We
the
love it.
smile.
That's
Mr.
it.
Big Texas. Let me tell you about some real estate deals.
That's right. Let me slap a real estate deal on
Yeah, I
you.
know. It's funny.
Whenever
a conversation's not going well in business, I'm just like, let me get, this guy's from Texas. Hey, do you know a guy named Bryce Petty? I've been kind of kicking it with Bryce Petty. And they're like, oh, yeah, like we should get on the calendar. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. Like, it's so sad.
I tell you what, man.
It's so sad.
It's the business world, especially related to sports, it gets you in the doors. That's the interesting part about it. But, I mean, like anything else, it's a platform. So again, to our identity, Bill, it's not that Bryce is a football player. It's that you're Bryce, a human being. So it's up to you to define that, though. You can't let anybody else.
You do a good
outside
job
that.
defining that.
Well, I mean, I've had my growing pains too. Especially when you kind of grow up. With this idea of what you think a perfect life is. For you, it was the corporate world as far as the resume, it's the money, it's the whatever. For me, growing up, it's having the Tom Brady type career. It's having, the Steve Young type career with Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff. And there's just a lot of outside factors that, kind of play into that. And so you have to know who you are at the end of the day, because that's, your family, well, you have a wife or a significant other, well, you have kids, like that's your legacy plays into your identity. And it's way more impactful when you feel of it that, or think of it that way, as opposed to, what the world can give you, because that's going to be taken away just as soon as you get it.
It's just empty, man. It's empty. The deathbed, none of that matters, right? What is the biggest mistake you think you made in the transition? Like, if you could go back and change one thing you did or said or whatever, what would you change?
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question right now, especially because I've enjoyed the transition so much. So I don't necessarily know yet if I would sit back and change anything. I think more so than anything, just the expectation of certain things, of coming in and just being successful in the business world, right? So like when I talk about fundraising, there's a depth to it it's relational at its core, but at the same time there's still a performance, and it's the performance from going to a meeting or whatever, and there's an end to that meeting that as a man, right, and then as an employee of what I'm the company that I'm working for, AMR Capital, it's that I want to perform for him, just like when I was on the field I want to perform for my teammates, the locker room, the head coach, that kind of thing, and at that point the city as well, because it's wild how much they play into that. But so I think it's just the expectation and the process of things. So in football, I understood there was always going to be a process. I was never going to master being a quarterback at 27, or even at 21 for that matter. But kind of coming in knowing that, hey, I could get in the door to certain meetings, or I had a name, or I had a brand, I just felt like, hey, I'd be able to walk in and get money, and that's just not it's not the case, right? So there is.
It's like welcome to the real world, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's so good. It's just like being a quarterback and throwing a pick, right? I mean, it's the same thing. But I think that athletes bring a lot to business. The raw skills there. It's personal. It's it's personal. There's a brand element to it. There's a marketing element to everything. I don't care if you're an accountant or a lawyer or a freaking social media person. Like, there's a brand to that. Your resume is a brand, right? That's all it is. And but there's also this like, hey, forget the last play. Like, we got to move on. So it's this constant, but you have to learn from the last play. It's not like you can be ignorant to those lessons, but you got to move on. A lot of people don't have that, that are outside, that didn't grow up playing sports. I say this all the time. Sports are it's just a training ground for life, because there's constant failure with a little bit of success. Okay, that's my strength. I'm going to play to that strength. That's my weakness. Like, when I was always a quick linebacker, but I was not a fast linebacker. So like within the box, I was like the quickest guy, and I hit really hard.
What's a box?
Okay, yeah, sorry. Within the box is like tackle to tackle, right?
Nice.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And I was an inside linebacker, but we ran a 3-4, so it allowed me to flow. Like, he would eat up the tackle, and I could just play ball. But, LOL, he's like, D3, you little bitch. He's like, LOL, man, why are we even having this?
Like, what's a 3-4?
People are like, what's a 3? Oh, my bad. 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers in the back. Read a book.
Where's Wade Phillips when you need him?
Yeah. Well, here's what we're talking about here. So long story short, though, but on speed, I could not. When a tailback got outside, I wasn't going to catch him. I had to start working angles and stuff. Anyway, a lot of that plays into business. we got to wrap it up. Just this first segment, we're going to take a breather, and we're going to freshen up the beers as well. And then I think when we get back, you know what? We're going to talk about what we're gonna do when we get back during the break. Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Hey guys, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Outswa Publishing. They have gone above and beyond to get me and Bryce set up on this podcast. We're super stoked to be partnering with them on this. If you need your story told in an authentic way, no BS, no frills, just the straight story, check them out on YouTube. They have a channel called Christianity Uncensored on YouTube. And like I said, we're just grateful for their support. Thanks. All right, jumping back into things here, Bryce. Any thoughts from the break?
From what?
from the break. I know you're trying to swallow that beef jerky.
Yeah, beef jerky was fantastic. No, I thought it was great. That was a great. This is episode 1, man. So the sky's the limit. We're at the foundation right now, so I'm excited about it.
The feet can no longer be cold. You're at the podium, or what do they call that at the wedding? Is it the podium where you're making your commitment?
Stand.
We're at the stand. What altar? Honor?
Everybody gets
Peace?
married. Please. I don't know.
Yeah. You're at the Chick-fil-A, and you're about to actually lock this thing down.
We're jumping in.
I'll take a number 3. No, you're at the altar, and it's getting real at that point. And if you back out, then it's like you've paid so much money. Like just go through.
Might as well go through.
Come on, man. You know.
Which brings us to our next thing. Just give up.
Come on, man. I'm not going to ask the question if you're going to dish that stuff out. So my next question for Bryce, just to start it off really heavy in segment 2. Tell me 3 things you've learned. How long have you and Joe been married?
2 years in July.
Okay, 2 years in July. Her name is Jordan. It's not Joe. We'd talk about that first, probably.
Yeah.
Probably lay some context on that.
Even know if
But
I
how
can call
long?
her
So
Jordan, it's weird.
did you say 2 years in July?
Yeah.
So you're fresh. Okay.
Fresh.
Tell me some things you've learned. Tell me 3 kind of big things you've learned so far on marriage.
Yeah, man, it's a wild ride, man. We're still kind of in our we have glimpses of the honeymoon phase still, and then we have glimpses of the we've been married
reality.
for 30 years. And so but yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost is just the expectation of certain things, and especially one, just how you're raised, how you're brought up, how your parents kind of interacted, roles, anything from raising kids to taking care of homes, everything, right? I mean, it all plays into how you perceive what your role is in your marriage, right? So there's an expectation piece to it. I think, 2 is just, it's crazy, dude, when you put 2 people that have lived separately for X amount of years, and then all of a sudden you throw them into under the same roof. It's a wild ride. So it's fun. Waking up and it's like, what's going to be new today? Just like learning, a playbook or something in the corporate world. You learn something new about each other every day. And that's the cool part, because it humbles you, right? And it kind of step into the third piece is just that love is humbling. And it's such a cool place to be in. I'm a strong advocate of marriage. It's awesome. It teaches you a lot about yourself. But I think that humility that love brings, to just put yourself in front of, or I guess them in front of yourself, whether it's, taking out the trash, whether it's more so, instead of interrupting them in a conversation, it's more of, you let them talk. There's all kind of pieces of humility over there. But these 2 years have been pretty fun to grow.
Who am I to try to limit you to 3 bullet points? A. Not fair. Not realistic. Right. Right? Come on. Know what you're swinging with. B, that's exactly how I would answer that question 2 years ago with Danny. We fought so much. We still fight, okay? But like, it's healthier fighting. We were not okay for 2 years. And I think it's something crazy, like 80% of divorces happen within the first 3 years. Because it's just like, what is going on? Mm-hmm. Like, I made a commitment to this person who I love, but like, there's so many layers on top of someone, like above their soul. Like there's like experiences, there's jobs, there's money, if you have kids, there's responsibilities that come with that. Like, Danny and I went through a lot when we first got married, and I wouldn't change anything because we are completely different people than we were when we met. Like, I'm such a better man now. Like, I am a man now. I mean, at least I think I am, compared to who I was. Oh my God, I was a child. So I love my marriage, not only because there's this, when I look at my wife, there's this depth of like, we've been through so much together and you've never left. Like, you're in this with me. I trust that. But I also love my marriage because I look in the mirror and I'm like, without her, none of this was possible. Like, and not just the good things, but like the things that, like, at one point I kind of had to choose my wife over my family. We got in a lot of fights and stuff, and I had to be like, Dad, your mom and Dad, you can't talk to my wife like that. And like, if you force me to make a decision, I'm gonna have to choose my wife. And that went over really well, really well.
Like
yeah, no, things are great. Still working on it. But, you know, she needed that because her dad left her when she was 14. So for me to step in and play that husband role that her dad never played, it helped her trust a man again. Like that's the kind of thing, like, I believe in God so thoroughly now because all the things I struggled with as a kid, like, Danny triggers in me. So, and a lot of people are like, why would you like think of that as like a positive thing? Because it brings it to the surface. But now, instead of me being able to run from it as a single person and be like, nah, I don't struggle with that, I'm going to go drink, or I'm going to go medicate with women or drugs or whatever, I can be like, you know what? I can't go anywhere. I have to work on this.
Head on.
And she loves me enough to be like, that's an issue. And I have some stuff I want to work on too. Let's pray. Let's work on this together. Let's go to groups. Let's go to counselors, and let's heal from our backgrounds. Marriage brings things up that are already there. People just don't like seeing it come out.
Yeah.
Conflict and love and passion and hatred and anger just gets things out that they're already there. They're just dormant.
Yeah.
We just stuff them for years.
And it's wild too, because when you kind of think about how many times do you actually, your first instinct is to run, right? And so it's, especially in our generation.
Fight or flight.
Right. But, you know, in our generation especially, you know, if things are tough, it's like, where's another avenue? Like, I can go somewhere else, you know, and marriage is that, you know, it's that constant covenant that, like, no, I can't go anywhere. You know, I got to face this head on. So I think that there's, again, it's that humility aspect, but it's that growing in your character, growing in who you are as a person.
Yeah.
That marriage, just like you said, it brings out the best of you, it brings out the worst in you and all in between. Yeah. And it's that counterpart in you that you know, really highlights the worst to make it the best. And
that's good.
Vice versa.
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah. We got real deep there, but I mean, like, I think it's just so cool to, you know, having brotherhood like this when we are all married. I think new married guys, if you're out there and you're newly married, you need to be hanging out with other newly married guys who are ethical dudes who are like, yo, bro, I don't love my wife every day either. Sometimes, actually, right now I hate her, but you know what's right? And that's why I look to the Bible, because it's a guide. It's like, if I just go based on my emotions, and honestly, if I just go based on how my boys are telling me to go, I'm gonna fail 9 times out of 10, man.
Right.
There has to be a code. There has to be. And it's not a rule book. It's a map, right? And holding each other accountable, and not just that, but it's like the ability to be like, I've been there, man. You're like, that sucks. I've felt that too. That sucks because that, you know, and that plays in. You didn't earn that. You didn't deserve that. Like, that ability to empathize. Yeah. People need that, man.
Well, there's strength in community. Always is, right? And they always talk about it. And I tell people this all the time, that we weren't meant to be on this earth, you know, to live alone, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's what I say. I mean, you can even look at, you know, as crazy of an analogy as this is, but, you know, you look in the wild, groups always survive. It's the ones that are you know, either hurt, whatever, gimping, that are left alone. Those are always the ones that end up getting dead. Yeah, you know, man. So, and it's just like, I mean, Satan preys on the single, on the left alone. That's why you have that parable of the 99.
Yeah, he leaves the 99 to get the one, because he knows you need to be with other people. And that's the thing about, like, Christian community is, like, I don't like a lot of the guys in my group. Like, I don't like them. I wouldn't want to get beers with the guys when I first met them, you know, and I'm like, I don't want to go to those groups. Like, none of those guys are cool. Like, none of them played sports. None of them are entrepreneurial. They're all just kind of like lame old guys. But if I bring my issues to them and they can relate with some element of that, and maybe they're 10 years older than me, and they're like, I've been through that. Like, here's what I did. And I'm like, wait, outside the church community, I never would have hung out with you ever, because you're not my comfort zone, right? And, like, I want to be able to go get a beer and go hit balls with you and stuff. But the Christian community allowed me to create a connection there with a guy who now he's like a deeper friend than the guys I want to go hit balls with sometimes.
Yeah, right,
you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And having both is when you really hit the jackpot. Like, I feel like we have that with Trevor. Like, I would love to, we're drinking beers right now because we're guys and we like to drink beer, but we also love the Lord, and we like to hit golf balls, and we're trying to build businesses, and we love our wives. I mean, like,
yeah, right.
That's what it's all about, but you're not going to get that every time. I think the Christian community allows for bridges to be built where they're just not going to get built by like our time, like the regular things of our time, right? Which is powerful, right?
Well, there's depth to that too. There's depth to friendship. There's depth to again the community aspect of things. But when you do things together, that you are allowed to be who you are. You know, it's not this fake facade of like, okay, I'm a Christian, so I need to put on this front that I don't cuss, that I don't drink, that I don't swear, you know, whatever.
Rule book.
Right. And that's you know, kind of one of my biggest pet peeves, because I was that guy, right? Mm-hmm. I've been that guy before, always have been, you know, up until the last couple of years, to where I really kind of felt like, you know, you kind of throw off those chains, right? And, and so, but yeah, to be able to be yourself, living life with guys around you that are themselves as well, it just like creates such a deeper friendship, you know, that allows you to grow.
Yeah,
so,
man. Yeah, man. Well, none of us are finished products, right? But,
never.
You know?
Never.
But would there really be an opportunity for faith if we were all perfect? Like, that's not faith.
You wouldn't need faith in it.
You wouldn't need faith because you've earned it at that point. You like, I'm worthy of, like, I don't know, eternal life or perfection or success or whatever. So
let me ask you this: how do you bring that aspect to the corporate world, right, or to entrepreneurship, to where there's obviously everybody knows business world is, you kind of have a whole you know, that's the Forrest Gump of you never know what's in the box, whatever. That was one. That was a terrible accent. Two, that wasn't even the analogy.
I was there with you. I felt it.
What's the saying? What's the saying? That was actually one of the games we were talking
life
about.
is like a box of chocolates.
So you never know what you're going to get, right?
Now, that is a game we should play. Do you want to play that right now, by the way?
Could.
And then I'll answer your question, which also gives me more time to think about a response.
Okay.
Just authentic right there. I'm just going to keep it real. I really need time on that.
Okay.
I don't want to mess that one up.
Good.
So let's do a longer movie that was a deep movie. Okay. So you give a quote and I have to tell the movie? No, I'm already thinking about a question.
It sounds like you're already thinking about a quote.
I got my brain full right now, so now I'm going to pivot in here and think about this.
Okay.
I'm not going to go easy, okay? This is not Wedding Crashers, like, you know, we do Dumb and Dumber all the time. The quote? No, we're not going to do. We're not going to do the Forrest Gump quote that we just did.
No, I know. I'm just saying, you have a quote like that off the top of your head.
I'm good like that. Yeah,
wow,
like I can quote movies. Okay.
Jeez,
Oh, that's too easy. Okay. I know you've seen that. All right. Okay. All right. I was just making a point, Frank. You didn't have to celebrate it.
Dodgeball?
No, close. Similar characters. They're all in the same movies.
Who's Frank?
Frank the Tank. It's in that old school movie when he's like Max earmuffs, and then the kid puts his hands over his ears because they're about to like have like grown up talk, and then he swears, and then Max puts down his earmuffs, and Will Ferrell's like, shit, cock, balls.
Oh my God.
And then Vince Vaughn's like, my God, Frank, I was just making a point. You didn't have to celebrate it.
It has to be old school then.
I just gave you that.
Well, I didn't. Okay, but I didn't know that before. I just put together Vince Vaughn.
So
That's
you deducted
on
based
part.
on the logic that I provided.
Yes.
Yeah, old school. No, but I literally just said it's that movie, Old School.
I thought
you're smart, bro.
You're saying it's that old school.
No, you
movie,
got it. You got it.
Anyways. So right now,
I think when you talk about bringing faith into the workplace. When you talk about bringing your faith into the workplace, I think it's tough, right? I don't go out there, and I've made this mistake too. I've been like open about my faith. Like I'm having a big God week, and I'm like, here's some scripture, and they're like, I don't know who you are and what you're talking about. I think honestly, it's situations like contracts, right? That's a great situation. So, and that reason that comes to my mind is because we're working with this sports agency I was telling you about, and this guy's the founder and CEO of this company. He's been doing it for a long time. And he's a Christian, but I didn't know that for like 4 months of us talking. Like we don't lead with that, right? But I think over time, there's kind of this like, I don't know. I think that you can kind of feel it over time, and there's this authenticity. So he would just call me in the middle of the day and be like, "How you doing, bud?" And there was no agenda, right? So I think that Christians in the workplace need to just allow. I say this all the time: just be. And if you have a good relationship with God, and if you're centered, and if you're acting from a place of love, you know, it's just going to come through. And that's honestly, in this day and age, with all of our promotion and our hashtags and yada, 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 I think that's honestly one of the only ways to spread love, because God is love. The Bible says God is love. Right. So when you love others authentically, unconditionally, that is God at work. You don't have to preach. You don't have to talk. You just kind of are. I learned that the hard way, though. Like, I was big on my faith at work. You know, I don't know if I was ever like, Christ is the living Savior, like at work, you know, but things like, you know, God's got this and stuff, like in a Microsoft meeting, they're like, well, why are you saying that?
Yeah,
like, that's just not appropriate, you know? And there's people there that are spiritual, but they're Hindu, they're Buddhist or whatever, and you want to respect what they got going, you know? You're not trying to preach. I think there's just a fine line, but I think the biggest piece of advice would just, you don't have to do anything. Like, you don't have to be anything. I think you just need to be authentic and work more on your heart than your voice. Like, there's a quote that my uncle tells me all the time, because I'm a big talker, and I try to, like, minister to my wife. And he's like, Chad, I'm going to keep telling you this until you get it. Live your ministry, and when all else fails, open your mouth. So, like, he's like, your walk is your ministry. Your walk is loving your wife. Me telling my wife to go read the Bible, or me telling my wife, hey, we need to go to church, it produces the opposite effect.
Right.
Because she's like, whoa, are you judging me right now? And that's the problem with Christians. A lot of Christians is they're like, I go to church on Sundays, and so I'm better than people. I'm like, are you serious, dude?
Yeah.
Like, it's not reflecting in your life. You know, just be. Stop trying to be. Just be. That would be the only thing I'd say.
Yeah. No, but and I think it's cool too, because especially in the South, right? It's a deep connection to church, which I love. But at the same time, it's you do have a lot of clipboards out there. They're like, you know, they're just kind of watching you, checking it off, and so that's what kind of creates this, you know, false sense of what we were talking about earlier, which is you can't be yourself, because if, you know, I show any sign of, you know, whatever, I'm drinking a beer, then I'm going to have 3 people on this episode call me out and be like, oh, you're not living a Christian life. And
Jesus drank wine.
Yeah.
Jesus turned a whole thing of water into wine when they ran out of wine at the wedding, so people are already drunk.
Right, that's
and
right.
he's like, yeah, I got your wine.
Right,
like, really?
right.
He was
Yeah,
furnishing
yeah.
alcohol to people, and they're like, oh, you can't have a beer. Like, it's such BS, man.
It's crazy.
Jesus would be right here. I'm like putting words in Jesus' mouth. Like, Jesus would be
Probably.
here doing a line of coke
probably.
right here, partying his ass off. No, but he'd be here hanging out, man, because he's about people. He's not about rules.
Right.
That was half of his critique when he came to the world. When he came in, the Pharisees were the religious right. They were the Catholics and the Christians of that day. And he was like, you guys are getting it all mixed up. It's not about rules and regulations. Those are general guidelines to live a better life, but you're making them the God.
Yeah.
The God is in you. It's not a freaking temple. It's not a rule book, you know.
Which is, I think, that the foundation of what we want this to be too is just authentic, right? It's raw. It's natural. You kind of come as you are.
And we're gonna be open about some of the stuff we struggle with too. Like, we talk pretty openly about marriage. Like, marriage is hard, man.
Yeah.
Marriage is really, really hard, you know. And having kids too. We had kids really young, and Danny was 23 when she had Deacon, or 24. We got married at 23. Yeah, but you know, Danny looks at me sometimes and she's like, let me get this straight. My mom died of cancer for 6 years while I was in college. She graduated early still. She worked full-time when she was in college. Then she met me when her mom died, and she's had a kid, moved twice, bought 2 homes, and had 2 new jobs in 3 years since she met me. She's like, is life going to get, like, easier soon? Yeah. I'm like, all right, you know what? That's, you know, I just realized kind of, I think that's why I believe in the wilderness, because it's me probably trying to affirm myself of, like, there is purpose in this, right? Because it's so hard sometimes. Like, it's been so bad, but at times, but there's such beauty on the other end of it. So if you're out there and you're in a marriage, or you're in a relationship and you love the girl or you love the guy and things are really rocky right now, like, of course you have to ask the question, am I supposed to be with this person? And the big thing there is, does this person make me better? Like, and you look in the mirror when you ask yourself that, okay? But I think secondly, hang in. Like, what kind of relationship do you really want? Like, are you really going to marry the kind of person who you aren't willing to go through difficult seasons with, right? Like, you really think that's what marriage is about? Like, marriage is about trenches. Who's in the trench with you, right?
I mean, that's in life too. You know, it's like you think that you got the promotion, you got the girl, you got the money, you got the car, and it's like, you know, you got to be. Those things are great. But who's there with you when you don't have any of those things? When you're 0 for 4, right? And you're moving because you lost a job and, you're out of a box and all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing that when you really find who's really there for you. Yeah. And I really think that's where you find the joy in life as well. Because it kind of, again, going back to what you talked about earlier, you find, what's really important in life.
And you're cutting those things loose because they have chains on you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Always do.
They start to define you. I think that's weird how we're naturally like that. Like, it's okay to buy an iPhone and love the iPhone. Yeah, this is a great piece of machinery. I'm glad Steve Jobs was born. But I think when we obsess over it, I've noticed, I can't stop looking at my phone. I will, and you have the same problem, by the way, because we'll be together and you'll be like, click, click, click. I'm like, bro, I'm literally talking to you.
Emails, bro.
Yeah, you're so busy. And I don't really even have anything going on, so I can just put my phone aside.
Are you on your phone a lot, Trevor?
Trevor's not like that. Trevor's more relational. Trevor's always with me. That's we're tight and we're not. So get on his level, bro. No, I get it. You got your followers. You got to keep them happy. But I think I was gonna hit on something, and now I'm gonna dovetail into something else due to forgetfulness. Trevor, time check.
We're at 10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes. Okay, I want to hit on something you mentioned that got me thinking about. So Baylor. Big time quarterback. I think something about Heisman. You were in the running, right?
Maybe.
Were you in the? Don't say maybe. Were you in the running?
I was like, yeah.
You're a pretty good football player,
13,
right?
13. I was sixth.
6. Okay. And then you go to the Jets.
Yeah.
4th round.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that contract like, by the way? You don't have to tell us the money or whatever, but was that a good contract? Is it a 1 year? Is it a 1 year deal?
No, it's a 3-year deal with a 4th year option.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So you came into money, and you had the girl. Had you met Joe yet?
We met actually right after I got drafted. So,
shocker.
Yeah, right? So I love to have that conversation.
Where there's bees, man.
That's right. Somewhere close. No, she's great, man. It was actually awesome because we met at my best friend's wedding. And
that's a fun story.
Yeah, dude. She had no idea who I was, which is a beautiful thing. But anyways, continue with your question.
That is a beautiful thing, by the way. That she didn't know who you, and that's such a Jordan thing. She's like, "What? Who are you?" Right? You're cute, but you're not who are you? And even if she knew, I don't think she'd really care.
No,
she's a really genuine person.
Right.
But the question was, dude, at one point you were living the dream, that. We just watched the draft this year, You see those kids go up there, and you're like, dude, that kid is gonna be loaded rich. He's chock full of talent. He's freaking 20. What was that like? What was that like?
Yeah, I love just describing it, as an adventure. It was in every sense of the word an adventure. And when you go from, I was 24 when I got drafted, which it's crazy because you got kids that literally are 20 when they get drafted and kind of thrown into, you got some kids thrown into Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is great, and then you have some kids thrown into New York, which is just wild. I couldn't
and they're
imagine
from
that
Green
being
Bay, Wisconsin.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So. But yeah, man, it was a blast. It was from every sense of the word, it was just a blessing because it was something that, I knew at 6 years old, I was watching the Chiefs game. It was actually Trent Green was the QB. I remember telling Dad, I was like, I want to play in the NFL one day. And so to kind of, look back and see, all that stuff kind of, I guess, transpire into what it was, it's a joy to be there. But it's interesting too, because you get thrown into the business world pretty quick. So you have a select amount of guys that are, the poster kids for NFL, and then you have everybody else, right? And it's so if you're lumped into everybody else, it can be a tough gig, regardless of the adventure or not. It's just, it's tough as a guy trying to again perform. You want to go out there and put your best foot forward. So. But yeah, from kind of the question that you were asking, the aspect of just kind of be thrown into a lot of money was you got to go through some growing pains, because I was a small kid from Midlothian. We led a decent life. It wasn't like we needed anything, but I wasn't driving like a Maserati to high school either. Which was good. I wouldn't change that for the world. My kids are going to be driving a car that they work for.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So good for them.
But yeah, at that point, it's all about your support system, and so that's the tough thing too. Is I think right now there's such a craze for social media. There's such a craze for this entourage type life.
Yeah.
That you got dudes that are rolling with Odell that ain't got Odell money, And so it's
But they're trying to like
but they're
play
trying,
like
you
it.
have to, right?
Yeah.
Because it's keeping up with the Joneses, you know. And so
Sad, though.
it's kind of a tough world to kind of, you know, wade through that. And again, it's all about your identity, and you know, that support system around you is really who helps construct that. But it was a blast, man. It was a lot of fun being thrown to New York and playing ball. So
It's cool, man. But I love your like when you talk about it, I can tell that it's like there's probably 3% pain from it, and there's 97% just persistent optimism, which I think we can learn from, because you can still remember being 6 years old and being like, I'm going to play in the NFL. Now, I wanted to play in the NFL, and I probably said that when I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
right.
But I couldn't pinpoint. So you must have believed it. Like you must have. And we got to talk about that on like the next episode. I want to talk about mindset and belief and like the subconscious and all these kind of things. We are running out of time.
Yeah.
We need to give them, we have 1 minute. We need to give them the check it out.
Okay.
So what's our check it out this time?
I think our check it out, we said, was going to be Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's chicken specifically.
And why specifically
Bryce
chicken?
came over late. Shocked heart. Came over late tonight. Traffic. And I was like, I'm going to go to Trader Joe's and just grab us some food we can eat and then do the podcast. And I just grabbed random items from Trader Joe's, and I live down the street, so I always do that. And I grabbed 4 different chicken products without even knowing it. 2 different kinds of chicken salad, General Tso's chicken, and like chicken dumplings. And I got to the office, and I'm like, well, I hope he wants chicken.
We scarfed it down. It didn't
It's
last
over.
much. Yeah,
It was over.
It was a college buffet.
It was gross.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of that.
Check it out, Trader Joe's chicken.
Trader Joe's chicken. And then last, we're going to leave you with something. I don't have any time, though, right? We love you, and just hang in and keep listening, man. Comment and like us. Let's go.